Hello, I'm Natasha Reardon, and it's a pleasure to welcome you to St Martin in the Fields. We're about to record the fourth concert in our brand new series, Fresh Horizons. It's a performance by the celebrated vocal ensemble Stile Antico. And ahead of their big sing, two members of the ensemble, James Arthur and Rebecca Hickey, have joined me to tell me more about what we're about to hear. James and Rebecca, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. Tonight's concert is called A Garden of Delights. Could you give me an introduction to the music of the programme?
Yes, well, we conceived the programme around the idea that it's Valentine's Day coming up. We thought, how can we put a programme around love? And we thought what also would fit in with that is nature and appreciation of nature, and how much music about love also describes beautiful pastoral scenes. And what better music to do that than a madrigal? So we started, that was our premise, with talking about earthly delights. And we've chosen some madrigals from the Triumphs of Oriana, which James knows all about.
Well, I think there's a slight irony in the programme, in that we start with these madrigals that were written, specially collated by Thomas Morley for Queen Elizabeth I, who famously was the Virgin Queen. And so while she had lots of suitors, as far as we know, none of them were successful. And so we start the programme with a collection of madrigals in praise of nature and of Elizabeth, who sadly herself didn't find love. And then as we move through the programme, we go into biblical love. We turn to the Song of Songs. That famous collection of erotic poetry in the Bible may seem quite out of place, but of course it represents the love of Christ or God for the church. But again, there's another irony there, because the madrigals at the beginning of the programme are quite pure in their intent, and the biblical texts that we finish with can be quite heated in places.
Yes, it may not be correct to call them heavenly delights exactly, because obviously some of the words are very graphic. So
the Song of Songs book from the Bible is actually the most set book of all compositions. So perhaps not surprising that musicians took the opportunity to set these raunchy texts.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting actually, the different composers who are represented in this concert. They've all treated the text in different ways. So one of the pieces is Secret Lilium by Palestrina, and he wrote in fact 29 settings of Song of Songs texts. And in his preface, he's set out very clearly that it was very much pursuing the idea of it being about the relationship between Christ and the soul, and not at all any of this naughty stuff. And I think you can hear that in his setting. But then contrasting that with something like, for example, the Vivanco, the Spanish setting. What's it called again? Remind me the name of it.
Veni Dilectami.
That's the one, Veni Dilectami. It's a lot more sort of, you might say, earthly and worldly.
And then right in the middle of the programme we have a modern piece, a piece that we commissioned by Hugh Watkins. And in a way this piece bridges the gap, because it's about chastity and about the love. It's this terribly complicated poem by William Shakespeare about the love between the phoenix, which is a mythical bird but a symbol of perfection, and the turtle dove, which is one of these birds that mates for life. And it's about a funeral between these two birds, and but a pure and chaste love that they had together. So that sort of balances out in the middle of the programme.
Well, it's clearly very well thought through, and as you say, it's about love, Valentine's Day. But I was thinking this week, as I was listening to the music in preparation for tonight, it's so perfectly timed because we're in lockdown again, and one thing that we all seem to be seeking is a connection with nature. And here is music that's absolutely crammed full of images of birds and flowers and the promise of spring. I wondered, was it a conscious decision to do with lockdown at all, also, is this repertoire that you've been longing to sing during this difficult time?
It's certainly nice to sing something that's so joyful and really doesn't necessarily relate to our current situation. I mean, I did think as I was coming here today, I walked through St James's Park, the daffodils are already blooming, and that did lift my spirits a lot. And I think definitely singing about this kind of subject does make you go into that world, and it kind of cheers you up a bit.
I think people have been connecting with nature a lot more. I mean, of course, we're only allowed to take limited exercise. People are actually going out into their environs, enjoying what's around them. We've had snow this week, and then people are now going to be looking forward to warmer weather, and people are sitting around saying, hang on a minute, we've been in this semi-lockdown or semi-lockdown for a whole year now. We've seen the whole year of seasons go through, and yeah, I think people have connected a lot more with nature, with their busy, often urban-driven lives put to one side for a while.
It's amazing, actually, the things that I'm certainly noticing that I never noticed before. Sort of trees near me, I now know exactly what height they are, and I can't wait to see them flourish. And it's quite nice, as you say, to have a sort of distraction. So we've been in lockdown for sort of in and out for almost a year now, and at the very beginning, one of the big questions was what activities could we retain to try and keep life feeling normal, and what things did we need to put on hold until we had a better grasp of what this virus was all about. Now, for musicians, singing was sort of at the top of the list of things that we couldn't do, especially at the beginning, and there's been so much research, experiments, people have put in hours and hours to try and work out how to keep singing. So I wondered, for you both, we're a year on, from that point where things were looking pretty bleak to now you're singing in Stile Antico, you're performing in this beautiful church. How's that journey been for both of you?
That's an interesting question, because I suppose looking back on it, things are very different now. And when it first happened, you know, everything we had in our diary was completely cancelled. But because we're a self-run group, you know, we just decided amongst ourselves, you know, we can't let this stop us, you know. So, in fact, the first thing we did was the Mayflower programme. So we were supposed to be performing a programme based around the journey of the Mayflower around the anniversary of 400 years since it sailed. But unfortunately, all those concerts were cancelled. But we thought, how could we do this? And when it was clear that we could get together to sing, as long as, you know, we adhered to certain guidelines, we decided to make a film of it. So that was our first foray into.
Well, I don't know. I think actually before that, when no one was really leaving their homes at all, we said, well, what piece have we always wanted to sing? And we said, we wanted to sing Speminalium, Talus's great 40-part motet, but of course you can't sing that with 12 singers unless you multi-track. And so whilst we were sitting at home in the first lockdown, we all took 3 or 4 parts of Talus's Speminalium, and Ben Hymer's, who's in the group, and it's very nifty with technical and editorial gear, stitched it all together, and we put it on YouTube and thought, well, it'd be quite fun if some people watched it, and quite a lot of people watched it.
They did. That seemed so long ago, actually.
But that was the very first sort of collaborative thing. Well, no, come on.
But we weren't actually in the same room when we did it. That's why I think it was quite exciting finding the opportunity to come together.
But going to York showed, we filmed the Mayflower film in the York Early Music Festival, all within legal guidelines and all the rest of it. And it showed that we could do stuff, even though we had to be distanced like we are going to be performing this evening. And that spurred us on to think, well, you know, we wanted to release a disc this year, the Josquin disc, which was the concert we performed for you 2 weeks ago. And we thought, right, well, if we can put a film together, then we can make our CD recording as planned. And we had originally planned to do it early in the year, but we moved it to the summer, and it was nice. We recorded it in July, I think.
Yeah.
One final question for tonight. Could you give me your personal highlight of the programme, starting with you, James?
Goodness. I mean, I'm bound to say, obviously, they're all fantastic pieces. But I do really enjoy the Hugh Watkins, the contemporary piece. Of course, I love the early pieces as well. But because it's so different, it's so well written, and it's written for 12 individual voices, so it's scored in 12 parts. You're each on your own. There's nowhere to hide, but you really, you can't coast along. You know, you have to pull your weight, and you have to know it. But it's a really, you know, you can go round and round in circles trying to really understand the text. But it is beautiful text. It's beautifully set. And whenever it comes up in a programme, I really look forward to seeing it.
Well, I really enjoy the sort of baroque vivacity of the Hieronymus Praetorius Tota Progress, which is at the end of the programme. But actually also, I really love the Thebaios setting of Ortus Conclusus and the Song of Song settings. It's only in 4 parts, but it's incredibly rich, and it's very sensual. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. And, you know, every time we sing it, I think, I love this piece. So I'm glad it's in the programme.
That's so lovely, and perfect way to end our chat. Thank you so much for joining me, James Arthur and Rebecca Hickey.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
very
us.
much.